Wild West. Stories of the taming of the violent American frontier have become part of the mythology of this nation, with stories of gunslinging, sheriffs, cowboys, Indians. The movie Western has become a classic and turned actors like John Wayne and Clint Eastwood into icons of manhood. In 1992, Clint Eastwood stepped behind the camera and crafted a Western that was like no other. It was called Unforgiven. Now, this complex tale of vengeance and frontier justice single-handedly resurrected the Hollywood Western, and has even been deemed as one of the greatest American films ever made by some. While it's not my favorite Western, Unforgiven does give a compelling story that deconstructs many of the myths that surround the idea of the Wild West. How does the film do this? Well, just give me a few minutes of your time, and let's go back and take a look at Unforgiven. My father loves Westerns, but when he saw Unforgiven, he didn't like it at all. He thought it was boring. Now, I don't think that Unforgiven is boring, but I do think it's an unusually thoughtful film for a Western. When Unforgiven was released, the Hollywood Western was in its death throes. With a few exceptions, there hadn't been a really successful Western in years, and mainstream audiences seemed to prefer big-budget special effects movies. Now, Eastwood himself had moved on from playing in the very genre that made him a star. The actor had risen to stardom by playing cold-blooded killers in movies like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Hang 'em High, and The Outlaw Josie Wales. But Clint Eastwood was not a young man anymore, but he did use his age to his advantage in this role. Here, Eastwood plays an aging gunslinger named William Money, who must come to terms with his violent past. So, we can look at Will Money as built upon references to Eastwood's previous roles. In Unforgiven, it's as if the violent cowboy from Eastwood's previous westerns has grown old and less violent and more thoughtful. So here, audiences are confronted with a realistic and contemplative portrait of life on the frontier, one that stands in stark contrast to the ultra-violent westerns of the past. I don't think this film is just a Western. Unforgiven is a movie about the myths of the Western. Even before the advent of Western movies, the myth of the violent frontier had spread throughout the country via dime novels and other media. These stories chronicle the exploits of people like Wild Bill Hickok and Billy the Kid. Now, the marketing of these Western myths is embodied here with the character of Mr. Beauchamp. Now, Mr. Beauchamp is a writer who enters this land with the hopes of turning stories of the Wild West into dime novels of his own. One of the ways Unforgiven deconstructs these myths of the West is by juxtaposing the reality of violence with the fantasy of violence. We can see this idea clearly in regards to the character of English Bob, played by Richard Harris. Now, Bob is a prolific gunslinger who is able to intimidate people purely with the myth of his reputation as a killer. But when Bob is confronted by the sadistic character of Little Bill, the reality of Bob's reputation is exposed. Bob, it turns out, is not a cold-blooded killer as he claims to be. Instead, he's a foolish dandy who gets by on his own legend. Now, also there's the character of the Frisco Kid. Now, the Frisco Kid wants to make his own legend as a gunslinger and killer. The only problem is, the poor boy is as blind as a bat and not a very good shot. As with English Bob, the movie is critiquing the whole idea of the macho, masculine cowboy who can kill anyone, anytime, anywhere. With many of the cowboys in Unforgiven, we see the theme of impotence running throughout this film. Cowboys can't mount their horses. Guns don't fire properly. Cowboys can't see straight. And prostitutes laugh at the small penises of their male clients. So in this film, the business of killing, the very act of killing, isn't quick, easy, and pleasurable as it is in other films. Here, death is slow, sloppy, and morally ambiguous. In Unforgiven, there are no legends, just lies and stories exaggerated for dime novels. The cold reality of killing is summed up in a stirring monologue given by Eastwood himself.
It's a hell of a thing, killing a man. You take away all he's got, and all he's ever gonna have.
Yeah. Well, I guess they had it coming.
We all have it coming, kid.
The film's thoughtful attitude towards violence culminates in its climax, as the character of Will Money seeks revenge for the death of his friend. But here the character triumphs not due to his skills as a killer, but mostly through dumb luck and chance.
Misfire. Kill us, bitch.
Unforgiven was a big hit when it came out in 1992. The movie received critical acclaim and won Clint Eastwood Oscars for directing and for Best Picture of the Year. Now, in addition to revitalizing Eastwood's career, Unforgiven's success resurrected the Western as a commercially viable genre. So after a long hiatus, movies about the Wild West were back with a bang.
Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, Dana Delaney, Powers Booth, Michael Biehn, Bill Paxton, Jason Priestley, Sam Elliott, and Charlton Heston.
You tell him I'm coming! And hell's coming with me!
Justice is coming to Tombstone.
While some of these new 90s westerns were just the same violent spectacles that Unforgiven was trying to do away with, others brought newfound diversity of imagery and idea to the genre. Traditionally excluded from most westerns, the movie Posse, directed by Mario Van Peebles, was a Wild West movie with a predominantly African-American cast. Bad Girls is still one of the only westerns ever made that centers around a cast of women. But the new western wasn't just a product of Hollywood. Independent cinema also staked their claim on this genre as well. Jim Jarmusch's film Dead Man stars Johnny Depp as a writer who slowly becomes a killer as he wanders through a desolate western frontier. Also, The Ballad of Little Joe was a gender-bending western based on a true story of a female who lived her life as a male cowboy. Now, throughout the years, westerns have had their ups and downs, but if you're at all interested in this film genre, I think Unforgiven is still an essential piece of American filmmaking. So, thanks for listening. Please subscribe to my channel and post comments below. Thank you.